Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dice with another vlog at you this week. It's been a busy week, a very challenging week at that. And, some of the things I want to talk about is, you know, in these times that are very trying and very challenging indeed, that's exactly what they are. A lot in the world is changing, and sometimes it changes, sometimes at a moment's notice, at a clip, at a matter of seconds does it change. And sometimes it's really hard for us as artistic people to really dive in and accept that change. And it's just so hard and it's a struggle. And to anybody who's artistic neurodivergent, I get you. I've been going through a lot of changes in the last few years, and even more so, not even as, I wouldn't say as more so, but they've been more brunt, abrupt, and harsh in the last few weeks. And while these changes are not those that are necessarily bad, they hit reality. They're not bad I mean, they do somewhat affect me, but they are good in some ways as for others. And when we realize that they're good for others, we have to learn to accept that and not bring them down as being the reason we're miserable. Because if we're the one who's the catalyst of bringing others down for our misery, because it's something that we don't particularly care for or cannot control, or just have to, it can be hard to accept, or it's not helping in any way when you bring that thought or that person down for the change that is occurring that cannot be controlled or maybe better for someone else. Uh, Bringing them down for their actions or behavior, uh, it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't make anything better. It won't make the change go away. And if it does in some way, because that person or that entity gives in to the individual's thought process of it has to be my way or the highway, it's not healthy, and the individual will never, or will never grasp the reality that they have to understand that there's things in life we just can't control. And I think COVID, over the last 2, or we're going into 3 years, you know has been a big catalyst of understanding there's just things in life we can't control, and there's things that are going to happen suddenly that's going to change, and it's going to be abrupt, and it's going to be rough, but you have to get through it. And I think that's the hardest thing to accept, is the having to get through it and being strong for that person going through the change, or being the catalyst of the change. It can be the strongest, and it can be, but you have to be there to support your fellow comrades, or your allies that are going through this change as well. Because by you reacting in a way that is negative or harsh on um, and making them feel guilty for the change that they are making, that doesn't help anything. It makes it worse. It makes them feel more guilty, and it makes them feel like, they shouldn't do something when they've thought about it on their own, and they should have their own independent feelings and thoughts and not be brought down. Be strong enough to not be brought down by what you think. Likewise, if a person who is autistic, neurodivergent, what have you, um, has, feelings and thoughts of standing up for what is right and doing what is right. Those are choices that they have to make, but they also have to know that if it's not something that is advisable or that can be done in a way they like, that they have to accept what it is and what the hell the hand is dealt with that. And I've been through a few of those instances myself where the thing was not the favorable choice, but I went through with it. And you had to see how it panned out. And maybe you didn't have the support you may or may not need, but in reality, it may work out for you too. But you have to go with sometimes what the situation is handed to you. giving, for instance, a power outage, for example. Some areas in my county experienced a power outage, and it was a scheduled power outage. And, I think 90% of the people were aware, and just some downtown businesses were not made aware of this power outage change, and it was on a Friday, and it was at lunch hour, and so establishments couldn't open, businesses couldn't run, the flow of the day was ruined, everything abruptly changed, and luckily for me, I was not in the brunt of what was the worst reaction to the change and to not accepting of the change. But I had to adapt in different ways. You couldn't use elevators, you had to use stairs, you couldn't go places, you had to navigate the traffic lights in a different way. It's all, it's accepting that change and learning how to manage and cooperate and understand how that change, how can you manage yourself to get through that moment, to understand how that change is going to get through your life at that present moment. It may not be the what you want in life. It may not be what you think is right, or 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 that something should be done about it. But you being when you're asking for when you're making demands, you can't. It's not always making demands makes things worse, and when you're making demands, it just puts the situation in a negative tone. But if you advocate and you're assertive in a calm, dignified, polite, natural tone, then maybe maybe compromises will be made, maybe accommodations to what an extent can be is made. Now, granted, you may not get all of your accommodations, but if you fight for what you want, you'll get what you need, hopefully. Or if not, accommodations will be made for you to manage yourself. And I've been in that situation where instances where I was unaware of things happening, and I had to do things on my own end to better myself out of a situation that may have required extra effort, or doing something that I may not even want to do. That may, and and before that, I wasn't in my right mind when I was doing that. But I was very aggressive, very attacking to that person for their choice of decision, for what they did not, for their lack of doing. But I had to see from their point too that it wasn't totally their choice, and that my reacting in the way that I react to a situation may not be the best viewable or the best plausible situation, and my choosing to flee or flight from that situation because it was too much for me may have been a viable idea, but it shouldn't maybe not have been done as blunt. Maybe it should have been more calculated or more thoughtful, all these lines. And sometimes things we just can't control in life, they just happen. And that's part of life. I mean, we're in 2022. Yes, we depend on a lot of things that are man-made to suffice our daily life and provide us comfort in our daily living. And sometimes those things that provide us comfort and stability and wellness and all those things have tendency to be, um, you know, they tend to not work in a proper way, or malfunction, so that things happen in life. That's just basically essentially what it is. The things that you think can happen in life, they will, and you have to be accommodating to those needs when you can. Change is hard. I have to close with that because I go through changes all the time, and sometimes they're abrupt. Sometimes I have some notice and can't control myself out of those changes and have to accept them for what they are. And it's a very troubling and very challenging time, but I get through it. And you have to have those necessary coping skills and defense mechanisms to get yourself through it. You can look up coping skills or defense mechanisms. They're great and they're wonderful. Headphones are great. They're all wonderful. So, they're just all these great things that you have to know for yourself and know that you can do, because you have to have that toolbox. You have to have a set of what am I going to do if this, and this happens, or if this, and this happens? You have to have that set, because if you don't have that set, you're going to set yourself up for failure, frankly. So just a few tidbits about, change this week. I'm going through a lot of changes, so I thought I'd share it with you. So thank you for listening. Be sure to tap the notification bell if you want to hear more notifications. Subscribe to my channel, like my video. Visit me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Dustin's Dynasty. On the web at DustinsDynastyUSA.com. On Pinterest and TikTok at Dustin's Dynasty ASD. This vlog is also transcoded into a podcast on Spotify and many other platforms, where specifically on Spotify you can see the video. And I want to thank you again for listening, and be sure to have a beautiful and awesome good weekend, everyone.